And it said Sky Club. I was like, that's not a good book.
So, Terry, you got your background ready?
Yes.
Okay.
It's going to be blurred. It is what it is.
All right, Jordyn, you all set?
I'm good. Ready to go.
All right. This is David. I'm here. This is the WITHCP podcast. I'm with two of my favorite people. We'll be joined by at least one other person somewhere along the way here in the next half hour. I've already been to the dentist. Just want you to know. All right. I've already been to the dentist. I cannot move my left side. Okay. So I'm like a little numb over here. Can't feel this. Can't feel that at all. Okay. But I just wanted to have this podcast quick though, because I'm so fired up. So anyways, let's just start here.
Okay.
Dr. Terry and Scott, did you do anything fun last night?
As a matter of fact, I did. I'm in Detroit in between flights coming from the DNC. Woo! I'm have to not be too loud. There are lots of people around me, but it was infectious and magnificent and all the things. I don't even know where to begin. I took so many videos and met so many incredible people. There was a palpable joy and love. I actually texted that to some people at one point during the ceremony because you could just feel the excitement. People were hugging. I hugged people I didn't even know. Just like so excited. It was wonderful. It was historic. I cannot believe that I was there. I cannot believe that this is where we are going. We have replaced doom and fear with joy.
And I have been at some great political moments, but the only thing that I've had that I think is comparable to last night would be like a fan sports celebration moment, being in attendance. I was there in 1984 when the Detroit Tigers clinched the World Series, for example.
Oh, wow.
And like, yeah, you're just hugging everybody. It doesn't matter, right? You're like, hey man, I love you, you know?
Right.
Yes.
It's contagious. Yeah. There's just a joy to it. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what it was like. And it was all and a lot of tears too. Throughout, because there before Kamala gave her speech when the Central Park 5 came out for that was a punch in the gut. And they said collectively we've spent 41 years in jail, and this man continues to chant that we are guilty and we're not. And then when the mothers of the victims of gun violence came out, I mean, we were all crying there because the thought was, you know what, if all of these little babies were killed, and quite honestly, white babies in the suburbs, and these Republicans did nothing about it, then there's no hope with them in office. So we have to flip things so that the Dems can come in and fix this. And then for Kamala to come on and talk about all the things that she's going to do and talk about the John Lewis Voting Act. And that's going to be the first thing they're going to pass. And the joy that comes along and the excitement with her coming into office means that we also have the chance to make sure that the House and Senate are both Democratic too. It's just everything. That's why I put Dr. Terry and Scott today instead of just Terry. I feel
on the Zoom. Okay.
It is. I felt it through the TV.
I feel empowered, right?
Yeah, I wasn't even there, and I was feeling it through the TV. I'm at home, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like when she was giving her speech, when she was done, all the moments you mentioned, it's literally like how you said, David, you're at the sporting event, you can feel it through the TV. I'm hugging my mom, we're texting people, we're in a family group chat, we're like, oh my gosh, like, did you see this? Did you see this? Like, I can't even imagine being there in the room, in the moment with everyone when I'm feeling like so excited at home. So I can only imagine how it was in the arena.
Yeah, Terry, can you go on mute when you're not talking, Terry? Okay.
Oh yeah, sure.
Oh, you said how did my mom react?
Yeah.
Yeah, how was your mom?
She was so happy. Like, I mean, she was so happy. Just the whole, hearing Kamala's speech, we were together listening to it, all the things that she was addressing, we're like, wow, like this is such a better future moving forward. And I think especially too when Kamala was comparing like what her plans are with what it would look like with Trump, like she's making it very explicit. She made it very clear, like this is what we should do to move forward. But she's like, this is what she's saying. This is their plan. Like they've laid it out in Project 25. They've explicitly shared what they're going to do. She's like, we cannot let this happen. And so it was just so concrete and so evident, the split and the divide of what the difference could be of our future. But hearing her share and her confidence that she had in the way that she stood, on the stage at the podium with so much confidence and so much joy, and the inspiration that she instilled in us, we were like, oh, we're ready to go. Like, I was just thinking about the being in Arizona, knocking on doors, and then seeing the Slack with all of our community members, and everyone's like, oh, I'm ready, signed up for this, signed up for this. Like, it was just an empowering moment seeing her there. And then afterwards, I saw a photo with a little girl. It's like a silhouette of a little girl, and then Kamala in front of her, and I'm like, that was it for me. That was because I was like, me watching the TV. That could have literally been like, I don't know. That was me watching TV, but the girl was there. Obviously, I think it was her niece, but
Yeah, was it the three nieces that did the Kamala? Here's how you pronounce her name.
Two nieces and Kerry Washington. Yes,
Oh,
and
okay.
Jordyn, you did used to have pigtails like that, so literally that could have been used.
Yeah. Okay, I want to talk in a few minutes here about the speech itself, but right now, Dr. Kiana Scott has also joined us. So we got two Dr. Scotts. This is a double Dr. Scott moment. And you can already feel what we're just talking reactions right now, Kiana. So what's your reaction this morning, then and now?
Oh, I don't think I've stopped smiling since she stepped onto that stage last night. I mean, expectations were sky high, right? And I think we were all curious to see what she would do because Kamala Harris hasn't done a big speech like this.
Yeah.
She's given, bigger speeches than I have, but she has never had a convention speech like this. Her convention speech 4 years ago was basically from like the back of a pickup truck in a parking lot in Delaware, right? Because the convention was mostly
It was
virtual.
COVID and she was in the room by herself practically. Yes.
Totally. It wasn't in an arena packed with thousands and thousands of screaming fans and Oprah and, the world. So we haven't seen her do something like this. We also have had 33 days to get used to her as the top of the ticket, which is mind-boggling to me. So 33 days ago, she didn't know she was giving this speech. Biden had drafted his version of this speech. She wasn't there. We weren't there. We've had, I've spent more time doing homework assignments than she has, putting together her entire campaign, the entire convention, all of her policy platforms, picking a running mate, writing this speech, doing everything. So expectations were really, really high. This is her first introduction to, not those of us who've been following this for a while, but to the world in so many ways. And oh my God, did she just knock it out of the park? Like I could not contain myself. I was so nervous because the stakes are so high. I will also admit, for a minute, right before she was introduced, it was like Beyonce is going to come out first.
Yes.
I got caught up in the surprise guest thing.
Yeah, and I'm really glad they didn't, right? Because this was
100%.
Kamala's night, right?
Kamala Harris was the surprise guest. Like this was her night. She showed up. She did everything she needed to do and like 50% more, frankly. And so as I watched it last night, I was just grinning. As I thought about it afterwards, it was one of those nights where I couldn't sleep because I wanted to keep watching. I wanted to keep seeing what other people were seeing. And Jordyn, that photo you mentioned, like that's the photo that I posted on my Instagram. That's the photo I've seen all over everyone else's Instagram. What an indelible, powerful moment that also said so much that she didn't say herself.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
And then this morning, I keep thinking of different nuggets from it. Right.
Yeah.
And that to me is the sign of a speech that lands.
Let's hold those nuggets because I want to talk about content. But Terry, you're the only one among us four and the only one of like 6 people in the world that I know, because we had 5 other Common Power staff there who are in the room. All right. So come on, tell us some more. Tell us some more about being in the room.
I think it was amazing. Every time I saw somebody, first of all, it was somebody described as a Lollapalooza of politics, right? And I realized like where my existence in my world is because when I saw, Chuck Schumer, I almost passed out. All of these kinds of people are celebrities, and I just wanted to hug them and say, thank you for fighting for everybody and all of those things, but they probably would have kicked me out if I did that. But every time I did see somebody who was this kind of traditional, conventional celebrity, it upped their image in my eyes. I was like, oh, you're here too. Wonderful. I'm so happy you're here. And it was a mix of DC and Hollywood that was walking around there. And that is exactly the kind of mix, though, that we need to win, because people are correctly using their platforms. And it was so cool to see that and see people just walk by. But everybody was in it together. So nobody was kind of, don't touch me. People were just talking and hanging out. And I am so honored to have been there. It was infectious. There were moments where I sat there like this, just watching the speech, because I literally was like, she actually could be my cousin. She could be, I see me in her. I see this woman who it becomes a reflection of possibility for everybody. And there is nothing like that. I mean, I teared up so many times. So that was just incredible. And it hasn't stopped. When I got on the plane from Chicago to Detroit, it was filled with Kamala folks. Some guy was watching Fox News, and I was like, "Ooh, you're really wading into some dangerous territory here, because you're on a plane filled with people who are not on that side." That was great.
So I thought because we have X amount of time here for this podcast, Terry's got to get on a plane. Ironic that you're in Detroit, my old stomping grounds. That's good stuff. All right. And ever since you've been touting Chicago as the world's greatest city, I've been feeling more and more love for Detroit. All right. Over time, Terry. Okay. So, but
It's so objectionably Chicago, but that's fine.
It is. Come on, Chicago's an amazing place. Gotcha. So last night, I mean, I thought there was so much strategy, so well done, the whole campaign. Last night the whole convention was clearly Harris's convention. Okay, it wasn't Biden's meets Harris's convention. It was totally Harris's convention, and we in coming days will talk more about that. But it felt really, really her thing, her space. So that made it interesting to me that last night was not a night that I would call a joy night. Generally, last night was a strength night. Okay, it was a night of her saying, I'm ready to lead this country. I am a badass. That she said about her mother, but it was really like, and I'm my mother's daughter. Okay, and so it was just such a night of great strength. And I love that, because the Democrats just have been afraid to be the party of strength for so long. Okay. So Terry, can you talk about that feeling of strength in the room?
Yes. Well, and first of all, I meant objectively. Sorry, I'm very tired. Very late nights while we're there. So after I went to bed at 1 a.m. or so. Anywho, the feeling of strength was abounding. I mean, and so the first thing that I thought of was people whom she's brought over to her side. And that was really embodied in D.L. Hughley. When D.L. Hughley got on stage, and he was so hilarious, first of all, when he said that Trump can buy the White House and rent it back to her, and not rent it back to her. Little jab at his past racism. But when he said, she asked me to do research, and he said, and I was wrong about her. And so I am going to admit that just as loudly as I did when I objected to her. And that was him, and that was his moment of apology, but it was also a message to those people. And I mean, I was one of them. I did not vote for her in the primary when she was running for office. And I have 100% been converted. I understand her differently. I think they've done a very good job of being able to, and they did that all throughout the evening, showing videos of the things that she has done. And so in that strength is not only in the room, they're creating strength in the United States of saying, here is who she actually is. And they did an excellent job of it. And everybody was gushing over her nieces and family on stage as well. It was and
that cheering.
And 33 days.
Yeah, 33 days. The constant cheering, which has now become associated with the Harris campaign of the USA, which, there's problematic dimensions to that too. But right now, I'm not living in the problematic side. Right now, I'm living in the Olympic side of it, right?
Within 30 seconds, I was holding up the USA sign and clapping for a Republican on stage. What the hell world was I living in? That's where we are.
Right. So Kiana, can you talk about that from a little bit more of your expertise about the strength dimension and the patriotism and the way she is converting and moving the party?
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't Kamala Harris making a pitch to Democrats, right? That was Kamala Harris making a pitch to the entire country, and doing so thoughtfully and intentionally, and reaching out to people who might not traditionally find her appealing, and saying, there's a place for you here, and I am a candidate who speaks for you. I see you, I understand you, and I will represent and work for you. And that is my history. Thanks so much, Terry. Safe flight.
Thanks, Terry.
Bye. Thank you.
Grace,
And-
she's such a celebrity now. She's like, I gotta go. Okay, okay, I gotta go. I'm so busy. I only had a minute. Okay, that's how I gotta go. Okay.
Well, I'm so glad that we could hear directly from her about what it's like to be in the room. I am forever envious of anyone who was in that physical space last night. What a
Totally
phenomenal evening. But so she was really thoughtful. I mean, the theme of this convention has been freedom, and they have been hammering home this idea of fighting for freedom on a couple different channels, right? So you're fighting for the ability to make your own decisions about your body. You're fighting for the ability to love who you love, to have the family that you want. You're fighting for the ability to be safe. Last night, excuse me, we saw people talk about gun violence in a really different way than the Democratic Party has talked about gun violence before, even though it was some of the same speakers. You know, you get Gabby Giffords on a stage and she is incredible every single time. You get someone like Mark Kelly talking about his military experience, and that's a message that Democrats have tried to convey for years. It worked really effectively last night. As a side note, I think it also clarified for most of us that Kamala Harris 100% the right choice in choosing Tim Walz, right? Because he is a very Mark Kelly, Josh Shapiro, powerful Roy Cooper, who was on her short list for a while until he removed himself, Gretchen Whitmer, all powerful speakers in their own ways, really different than Tim Walz and the partnership that they have crafted and constructed and are performing for us right now and are showing us. You saw Leon Panetta, who was an unexpected primetime speaker, night 4 of the Democratic National Convention. I'm not sure he's who I'd have put there, but it didn't detract from the arc of the evening overall. She was firm. She was clear. She wrote herself into the narrative through her experience in the courtroom and said, this is how I fought for you, the people, my only client, across every step of my career, from the courthouse to the White House.
Yep.
She was very, very intentional, and they were clearly very intentional and very smart about building a strong foundation over the first 3 days of the convention, why we're here. And the night 4 was, and we are strong. We are strong in ways that you don't expect Democrats to be strong. And people who doubt that Democrats are strong or that Democrats share some of these concerns, listen to us. We're here too. I didn't personally love everything she said last night. I liked most of it an awful lot, but I wasn't the target audience for that. None of us were the target audience for that. She was talking to the 8 undecided voters in Pennsylvania who were part of the CNN focus group. 6 are now voting for Kamala Harris, one of whom is voting for Trump, one of whom is undecided. That to me indicates that she did exactly what she needed to do last night. And again, a bit more.
Yeah, she gave, and then Jordyn, I want to get your take on this too. The entire speech was crafted to the American public on behalf of the American people. All right. And because, my only client, she says, has been the people, the American people forever. Donald Trump's only client has been himself. I just think that Donald Trump has opened the barn door to the Democrats claiming patriotism, claiming leadership of all people, and claiming military strength in a way that he has denigrated veterans. And last night, the speakers, it was Allred, Gallego, Kelly, Kinzinger, all of these people, and then Slotkin, right? And all these people, and it was Alyssa Slotkin who says, we're the damn United States of America, all right? I mean, over and over and over again, but it wasn't jingoistic in a way that gets me too worried. It was about, we're an inclusive body of people here trying to build a better world. But I'm glad that they've seized this point, and Harris then had to meet it though. She has to meet that, because if she can't and that's where the last half of her speech is so important. She has to, she can't just be like this person who is like alongside of that in the party. She has to show that I can lead these people, right? And maybe she's more, maybe she says things stronger and more determined and aggressive than I would love to have anybody do. But at that moment in time, I think she needs to show that. And I'm like, bring it, bring it, bring it. Look, this is really important. And so she took things farther on some things, but to make a point, I think, right?
And to
So,
demonstrate that she can be commander in chief.
yes.
Which is the
Exactly.
question that a lot of people have.
Yeah.
Can she do
Jordyn.
it?
That's exactly, I mean, going along with what you guys are just saying right now, that's exactly it. The position and confidence and the way that she carried herself, the way that she stands behind the podium, the way that she expresses herself, all of that has to be strong. Just like we were saying, when she goes out, she has to be strong and to display that she's can be the leader that she says she can be, and that everyone in the past 3 days and that night said that she will be and that she can be. And she has to display that full force. So even if that means she goes as, you know, as far as she goes and whatever that looks like, she has to, because the positionality of who she is, she's making it very clear, I can be the commander in chief. And so I think, like Dr. Terry Ann Scott, so I could differentiate, mention earlier, seeing that for me is like literally seeing someone in my family, like I could just picture that. And so seeing her on stage was almost like an overwhelming feeling, because I'm like, wow, like that could be, you know, cousin, aunt, whatever, mom, and she's on stage and she's gonna be the president of the United States. Period. That's just, she's gonna be the president of the United States. It's like, it was a very overwhelming, powerful feeling, and her displaying that strength was of extremely necessary, just to continue to push her forward and to put her in that positionality of saying, like, I will be the commander in chief of the United States.
Yeah,
She has
I think, and part of the reason I like doing these podcasts is the same reason that I like doing the lectures that I've had the privilege to do for over the years, is I'm thinking things through as we're talking and as I'm putting together things. So I think that if I'm going to be honest about it, I don't think I knew she had that much strength that I saw last night. Like, I don't think I know I haven't seen her deliver it that way. And so it's not that I was running around worried about it, because I'm fully in her camp, but I think I was a little struck. I was like, wow, wow, wow. All right. It's like when the parent says to the kid, you know, like, you are not doing that, okay? And you're like, really? Wow, okay. Yeah, and the respect grows, because you're like, okay, you will put the foot down and you're making the decision, and you're also pointing out that my opponent is the lapdog, the autocrat wannabe. Yeah.
I agree 100%. I had an exact conversation like that yesterday evening, and it was that same thing. It's like, I've never seen her like this, but I love it. Basically, like, you're like, I've never seen this, but wow, like it took it to a whole nother level. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, hands down, that was just the best speech of her career. And
Yes.
she showed us she has improved so much as an orator over the past since she ran for president in the primary, before she joined the Biden ticket. She couldn't have given this speech
Yeah.
then. We didn't know she could do it now, and she just showed us that she can. And that's pretty amazing, because she had, again, such high expectations and just knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, and I want you to take it one step farther, Kiana, because of your expertise, into the realm of her as a woman delivering this speech. So I think that there's racial and there's gender dimensions here that are important. So I think that like, in my objective scholarly sense, I'm able to say, like, I didn't know that Kamala Harris had this in her, but there's definitely a gender dimension to that too, of like, was she as a woman going to deliver this too? I'm glad that this morning, like, that's not even on my mind, but as a woman, she still had to go into that space and deliver it that way.
Yes, and she didn't do what Hillary Clinton did a lot during her campaign for president, which is to lead with identity. She
Yeah,
led with
she
the
did not.
story, but she did not mention the historical nature of this campaign
No, not at
a single
all.
time, a single time. And she's learned that she doesn't need to, right? Images like the one that Jordyn, you mentioned with her grandniece with the two little pigtails watching her, that gets at what this is in so many ways. Kamala Harris, presidential nominee, her job is to look presidential. She doesn't need to look presidential as a woman. She needs to look presidential. She needs to sound presidential. She gets to define what that means. She needs to sound like a commander in chief. She needs to convince people that she will be an effective commander in chief. Check, check, and check. She at no point needed to say, and I will be the first woman president of the United States. She needed to convince people that she can be a president for everyone. And that's a really different approach than we've seen from candidates in the past. That to me shows that Kamala is doing and her team are doing their homework in a really thoughtful way, which we already knew. But she is, it's really telling to me that the conversations in sort of the media and popular culture right now about gender in this election are about masculinity and not about Kamala Harris, first woman president. They're about what the Harris campaigns means for masculinity and about creating this space for men to be empathetic in public. That's really different than I would have expected. David, I'm going to get back in there and write a whole second dissertation about this. I mean, it's fascinating. She has taken space that she needed to take, and she has very intentionally not claimed a space that she could have claimed because she doesn't need to be the one to do that.
Yeah,
She let
you're
Hillary
right.
do it.
She doesn't walk around ever making the case about first woman or first African American female or first South Asian female. I mean, everybody else is referencing it, but I wouldn't even say it's like leading their messages either. Okay.
So it was really telling to me last night that she wore a navy blue suit.
Yes, navy
which
blue.
Is very, that's a brand, that's a silhouette, that's a style that she wears a lot. A lot of men wear navy blue suits. Obviously, it looks different. She did not, what I'm getting at there is that she did not wear the white suffragette outfit.
No, she did not. I know.
Hillary Clinton did on
Yes.
Monday. She nodded to it. It was creamy, it wasn't white, but the audience last night did. Women in the audience were asked to wear white.
Okay.
Kamala Harris did not. She doesn't have to be the one to do that. Others get to celebrate it. She just gets to be president.
Exactly.
That's so cool.
It's so good. It's so good.
So good that they are so good at this. And one of the reasons I couldn't stop oh man, I was up past my bedtime just thinking about this last night. But what a phenomenal meeting of candidate and team and moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Like this just feels like everything is falling into place.
Yep.
And she's the underdog still. This is an uphill race. And I was listening to NPR this morning, and they said that at this point in both of his two previous campaigns, Donald Trump was further behind.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that is terrifying. Like we have a gap that we need to close. We have a gap that we need to open a lot wider. We have a lot of work that we need to do. And she clearly gets that. All of the clips of her after her speech last night, she was like, all right, we're going. We've got 75 days. Like, let's hit the road. This is an uphill battle still. And she needs now, we've done the convention. She's made her case to the American public on that stage. Now she gets to go out and say, and do something. And that's the case she was really making last night.
I did notice in the because I wasn't in the room like some of us, the fact that the audience was in white. I did notice that. So your knowledge is that they were instructed to come in white.
Yeah.
Okay. Because that to me is the essence of what is making this campaign work so well, is that she has the team doing the work around her that Clinton had to carry in 2016. Like, and this goes to just there's too many things to unpack here about why Clinton didn't have that team around here, but Harris does. And so Harris gets to, I want to use the word just, but it's way more than just, but to just arrive and be the president, right?
Well, she gets to focus. She doesn't
Yeah.
she doesn't have to do two impossible things at the same time. She has to do like 1.8 impossible things at the same time, which is again still really hard, right?
Yeah.
But it's not exactly the same.
Yeah. So what do you think, Jordyn? What you kind of, you're hearing this, but you're also bringing your like entry, like it's I mean, like,
Yeah.
yeah, like you're caring about all of this probably in 3.5 larger than you ever have before ways. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's so much information, but it's extremely inspiring. I mean, just from the most previous point that we're making about her campaign and her team are very intentional. I mean, from her sorority line sisters being there, that was a segment wearing white, from the chosen influencers that are posting all of her social media, you know, sharing videos with her that they've had in the past, sharing videos at the DNC, very intentional. Just every little piece about who was chosen to have segments, who's featured on the news, who's on social media, those photos that we were talking about of, you know, her grandnieces or of the Black women in the crowd, of the Black men, of the diverse groups of people in the crowd together, holding hands, crying, cheering, like everything is so intentional so that, like you guys said, she can focus on delivering her speech and portraying this message of being the commander in chief that she will be. And so it allows her to focus on that, but the same messages are still being portrayed in so many different ways that she doesn't necessarily have to say it verbally. It's there, and everyone sees it, and everyone feels it, and we're digesting it, and we're experiencing it across these many different avenues that apply to us, whether that's being a woman, whether that's being a Black woman, Asian, whatever it is, and feeling that and understanding the multi-dimensional human being that she is and how she's going to apply that to her presidency. I mean, it's just like amazing to see her and to see the campaign do that at the same time, because it's like the perfect formula. It's exactly like you said, it's falling into a place in, I think, the best way they could think possible, honestly. And I mean, I couldn't even have imagined that maybe as the perfect strategy, and it's working out so much better than I even could have thought, honestly.
And I want to I want for the last portion of this episode to talk specifically about her foreign policy space in the speech last night, which was a good 15-minute chunk, and it really was the heart of the speech. It was because things built towards it, and because she was displaying her strength and her ability to lead on the world stage, and she because I want to get this into the episode because people are asking about it. She spoke to Israel and Gaza, all right, and not as much as she will say and could have said. So we still don't know a whole lot about where she's at, but she didn't duck it, all right, and I felt that she delivered as strong as she could deliver on both sides of that in that convention moment. All right. And I have people who want a lot more I know lots of people who want a lot more from her on both sides of this. Right. And I thought though that she could have, because she hit Ukraine, and I was like, she talked about Ukraine, and I was like, okay, is she done now with foreign policy, or is she going to go to Israel and Gaza? Because she could have taken the off ramp at that point. She could have and been and gotten through it okay. All right. But she didn't. And then she gave the strength on the Israel side. And I'm like, God, I hope she's coming on the other side too. Right. But she could have not. But then she did. And the crowd was cheering, and she carried her thought all the way through in strength, said it with the self-determination, the freedom. And so I know that if people listening to this want more from her. Some want it on one side, some want it on the other side. I thought the fact that she delivered both sides with such strength in that moment was absolutely like the clinching moment for her in the speech. Like it was the toughest one for her to touch, and she touched it. So what do your two think about that?
I mean, David, I couldn't agree more. And what a challenging position for her to be in, because no matter what she says, some group of people is going to be dissatisfied, right? Because people want more in all directions here. As you said, she could have steered away from this. She could have not mentioned it. She spoke very, very forcefully. And what I think she did there is that she created a space for almost everyone. She's never going to get everyone here. For almost everyone to say, I can work with that. I can feel good about supporting someone who just said what she said in office and then advocating for what I need from her. I don't think she could have done anything else on this particular subject. I don't think there was a clear win for her. There's not 100%, there's no 100% satisfaction here for any candidate, for any politician.
Yeah.
She showed that she's not afraid to steer, to go into the complicated, messy, nuanced, heartbreaking areas that as president she will have to grapple with and lead the country on. So to me, I don't think she could have done a better job, knowing that she was in, knowing that this is just such a challenging, complicated situation, and that she was really effective in reaching pretty far down both sides. We'll see where this goes next. I think there's a lot of room to go. This wasn't Kamala Harris closing down this conversation, but it was Kamala Harris saying, we can work together.
Yeah.
Jordyn, what would you say?
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I was going to say. There were certain things that I was hoping that she would talk about. And I kind of had a similar thought process as you, David, and you said, okay, she hit Ukraine. I'm like, okay. And then she spoke on Israel. I'm like, please tell me, you're going to speak on the situation in Gaza, because that's one of the issues that's really, really affecting like Gen Z, millennials, like that's something they are strongly cared about by this group of voters. And so, I mean, and all of us. And so I knew that she had to get there. And like you said, Kiana, I think her opening that conversation, her saying, we will have this conversation about this conflict, and speaking on it in a forceful but caring way so that that conversation can continue, is what had to be done. I think addressing both and basically saying that she recognizes what's going on and she will fight for some solution. She will fight for things to come to a conclusion was, I mean, at most what she could do. And I think, like you said, Kiana, that's what she could do in that moment, for her speech and for all that she had to get through and all that she had to share. Her addressing it was really, really important to not only me, but all of us. And I'm glad that she did that. And I'm glad that she did it in the way that she discussed it. Was really important.
And I think she also brought us to a place where we can believe that, where most people will listen to her say that and say, okay, she knows what she's talking about. She led us through the work that she's done internationally, including with Ukraine.
Yeah.
As a precursor. That wasn't her starting point. That was Kamala Harris saying, here's the experience, here's what I've learned, here's what I've done, here's what I've done that you may not have known about. This is why I'm someone who can lead us forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really feel like there is these communication dynamic moments where someone has said enough and then they could stop, but they say, but wait, I want to say a little bit more. I want to express this a little bit more. And I felt like that moment for Michelle Obama when she finished the sentence, when the two very successful, hardworking, highly educated people, crowd goes crazy.
Yeah.
Who happened to be Black? And she finished the sentence, right? And how important it was to finish that sentence, right? I felt like Kamala Harris last night went farther than she had to. She chose to go stronger and harder on Israel and Gaza than she needed to on both sides. And when you do that, like Michelle Obama did on Tuesday, or Vice President Harris did last night, you do risk. You do risk, but you also clarify who you are as a human. You're like, you may or may not agree with me, but I am telling you as a human, Michelle Obama, when Michelle Obama says, I'm asking you, no, Michelle Obama is telling you to go do something. I felt Kamala Harris was saying, this is who I am, all right, in that moment. And there's risk in that, but man, I have so much respect that she didn't just reference it, she said something. And you know, I vote for a leader. I don't necessarily vote for every policy, all right? I need someone that I can trust in those tough moments, because man, the job is impossible, right? It's impossible. And to me, I felt like last night I came out of there and I'm like, I really believe in this person as a leader. Yes. And I already loved her. And now I'm like, oh my God, she's even better than I thought. All right. Yeah.
I will say one piece that surprised me about her speech last night, that surprised me in the moment, and now as I'm reflecting on it, it's starting. I don't know if it's starting to make more sense, but I'm starting to think about it slightly differently. She didn't talk about the climate crisis at all. She mentioned climate one time, very briefly. She didn't talk about energy. She didn't talk about, like, this has been such a centerpiece of Joe Biden's administration, Joe Biden's campaign, the traditional story that Democrats tell about why our party is the party of the future and the party that's looking out for all people. And that wasn't part of her story last night. It's a 35-minute speech. Not everything's going to be in there, but that to me was a really interesting omission.
Interesting.
That is really interesting. That is. Maybe she doesn't have work, quote unquote, work to do in terms of like convincing people. Not to say that she hasn't been a leader on this, but it just isn't a nagging question out there about her.
There are, I think, a number of possible explanations here. I will be curious to see if this is something she starts to talk about more in the coming weeks, or if this is an area where, Kamala Harris just isn't focused. And that to me, as our country and as our planet faces a huge and looming crisis, is an area where I'd like to see her be more vocal.
Yeah.
With the caveat that I want her to be elected.
Yeah.
That's really interesting because, and I know about Kamala Harris's commitment to voting rights. I know about it very, very well. This is the Common Powers wheelhouse.
And part of the story that she told last night, right? About seeing people in the courthouse play such a huge role there.
Yes. But I wouldn't say that voting rights was a big part of her speech last night either. She referenced passing the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, okay? But I didn't come away from that going like, damn it, where is it? Okay? Because I know who she is on that, right? So on climate, I wonder where people are at in terms of thinking about this. That'll be a point. You're right. It's a notable piece. But that said, I will say, if there are boxes to check, Israel and Gaza was one that had to be addressed. And foreign policy generally had to be addressed because Trump is so heinous in these areas. Yeah. So Jordyn, to finish this up, as you're like watching this and you're thinking about it, I want to come back to this point. You said it could be my aunt. This is you said this. It could be my grandma. It could be, because I saw Maya Harris introduce her, and they're these two sisters, right? And then I was watching on MSNBC, and each feed from networks has different people they focus on. but
Yeah.
this feed went to Maya Harris a lot during the speech. Okay. And was I just was thinking, like, what's it? We've never had these two women sitting there, that color, that gender, sitting there in this moment. It's just, and I'm sitting there, and I'm a guy over here who cares and is an ally, but I'm not I'm not in that identity. And so I'm just wondering, like, do you see not only Kamala, does Maya's relationship matter to her there and somehow like complete the puzzle?
Of course. I mean, representation is just life-changing. It's huge. Like it changes, I mean, in my opinion, it changes the entire trajectory of a child, I mean, an adult, whatever. I mean, we heard Dr. Terry Ann Scott say that could be me. Like that's just like she's seeing herself even. So for me to see myself or to see that relationship, I mean, even from like a personal standpoint, growing up, my mom, I remember my grandma, they put so much effort into like showing me and like being, deliberate about showing me accomplishments by Black women, deliberate about showing me
Mm.
things that we had accomplished so that like I knew, when they knew I was going to face challenges, that I was going to face difficult things in life, whether that be, people saying negative things, whatever it is, so that when those kinds of things come up, you're like, oh, but it kind of brushes off you. You're like, well, I know I can do this. I can do, I can accomplish the things that I dream of. But at the same time, if you never see it or you never see anyone in that position, it's difficult to imagine it. So seeing someone seeing Kamala as the president of you, I mean, that's like how much higher can you get to the highest position in the world is like, well, from then on, nothing's impossible, essentially, because I mean, if you want to be a doctor, seeing a doctor, if you want to be an astronaut, seeing an astronaut, like it's so important to be able to see yourself or see someone that looks like you in those positions, because that's how you dream of being able to be in them yourself. So there's millions, honestly, of little girls who are like, wow, like I could be president. Not
So
that they didn't think that when Hillary was there, but now it's a whole nother set of little girls that can think that as well. Whole nother set of girls that can have that conversation together, interracially, intergenerationally, that they can come together and think that instead of it being, one subset of our population, everyone can now think that.
yeah,
And little boys can think that. Little boys
yes.
can
Exactly.
say,
Exactly.
wow, can boys be president? And
Yep.
I want
Yeah.
anyone to out their ability to do everything they want, but
100%.
I'm ready for a change here.
Yes.
I think what I'm figuring out right now is there's two things that why Maya, I think, has captured me, or is stuck out to me as a communication move or presence, is because one, again, Hillary Clinton has no sibling to tell her story.
Maya
Okay.
Harris was her advisor, though. Maya Harris was Hillary Clinton's key policy advisor
Okay.
in the 2016 presidential election.
Right.
So
But
Maya has been around a long time.
So she's right. So she knows how to navigate the public spaces here and the message that needed to be delivered there. So Maya Harris doesn't come out just as a sister. She comes out as a political leader. But there was no one who got on that stage for Hillary Clinton and said, this is my big sister. This is my big sister. And in doing that, Maya Harris was talking about their mother too, who Michelle Obama had talked about, the mother of Kamala Harris. So that, again, there are all these people that were telling the story of Kamala Harris that isn't her, all right, that allows her to be our president.
And sorry, David, to interrupt again, they're telling the story of women around Kamala Harris.
Exactly.
Specifically.
Yes. And then when I find out that Kamala Harris's and Maya Harris's mother, her name is Shamala, all right, I'm like, oh my, I now understand where Kamala Harris came from. I got it. I get it, right? But Hillary Clinton has to tell the story about her mother because her mother, she's the only one that can tell the story about her mother. And she's still telling the story about her mother. All right. Nobody could get up there and do that or would do that for Hillary Clinton. And so that ability to it's not just humanizing Kamala Harris, it's actually telling us that this is who she's been since she was a child because of who her mother was, right? And the sister like vouches for it along the way. I mean, to me, it's a narrative element that Clinton never had. Clinton always had to be it's like take her word. Like, this is who let me tell you about my mother. But Kamala Harris doesn't have to do that in the same way by herself. She just says, this is who I've been. Because I think Maya Harris was very, very powerful in that space for Kamala Harris. She authenticates her in a variety of ways.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that last night Maya was the one, and Kamala, in conversation with Maya, with little asides to her in the audience, that's where the joy came in last night. It was in thinking about family. It was in saying, our mom told us to go do something and don't do it half-assed.
Yes.
And that is another piece that Hillary Clinton was never able to access, right? Her stories about her mother were serious. They were grounded in policy victories. They were not about the joy in camaraderie or the joy in being told not to half-ass something and having that be, a funny thing to say. Kamala gets to have this she gets to be very relational without being feminized. And that's something that we've seen her really succeed at throughout this convention, and that I imagine it's working well for them. They're going to keep doing that. They're going to keep letting other members of her family be a key part of telling that piece of her story and that piece of her strength and her skills.
Yeah. Thanks for coming today to this and helping us, me and everybody else, to think through some of this. And the joy of sharing the journey of Clinton in 2016, Harris in 2024, and then also we in the CP community to be able to process, to think. We did 4 nights of CP at the DNC, and people came, and there were these rich kind of reflective conversations that we had. It was amazing. So many people stepped up and donated for our 47 for 47th POTUS donation goals. We passed our goals. We'll have more details about that in the near future. It just feels like a collective moment, and it's undoubtedly very difficult, even right now, the road ahead, but we go with such strength. We are going with such strength, and that feels wonderful. Yeah.
We've gotten really good advice, and we take our orders from Michelle Obama and Kamala Harris, right? Now they've done their part. They still have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do. We have to go do something now.
Yeah.
It's our turn to get now.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you both so much. Let's go to work. All right.
Yeah. Thanks, Jordyn. Thanks, David.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Okay.